She believed marriage was for better or worse. But in the heart of Lagos, a city full of noise, ambition, and unspoken truths, Chiamaka's fears began to grow. Her husband, Chukason, once full of promise and warmth, started distancing himself. Late nights. Secret messages. And a woman at his workplace whose smile seemed too close. What if the quiet inside their home hides a dangerous secret? What if love alone is not enough? Stay with me through this tale of trust, betrayal, and redemption. Because sometimes, the truth is the heaviest burden. Welcome to Spiritual African Stories, the home of captivating African folktales, supernatural mysteries, and deeply emotional stories inspired by the heart of our culture. Here, every tale carries a spirit, stories of love, betrayal, power, and redemption that connect the physical and the spiritual worlds. Before we begin, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that will move your soul and stir your imagination. Chiamaka and Chukason had always believed in stories. Not fairy tales, those glittering dreams of castles, golden carriages, and magical happy endings. No. She believed in the stories her mother told her as a child growing up in Enugu. Stories about love that was tested, relationships built on sacrifice, and the truth that a person's heart could be deeper than any river and darker than any night. But nothing in her mother's stories prepared her for Lagos. She moved to the city when she was 23, fresh from university, carrying nothing but 2 suitcases, a relentless determination, and a fragile hope that she would build a life worthy of the expectations placed on her as the first daughter. Lagos welcomed her with noise, heat, and opportunity. She got a job as an administrative assistant in a private logistics company in Yaba. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well enough for survival. She found a small apartment, one she shared with her cousin Glory for a while, until life pushed them in different directions. Then she met him. Chukason Obifuel. Handsome. Calm. Well-spoken. With a confidence that settled into a room before his footsteps even crossed the door. His smile was warm, honest, disarming, and Chiamaka fell in love with him faster than she expected. They married within 2 years. Their wedding in Lagos was simple, nothing extravagant, no endless traditions stretched over days, just a beautiful ceremony attended by both families. Chiamaka's mother cried joyfully during the vows, whispering prayers for fruitfulness and peace. Chukason's elder brother, Obinna, clapped the loudest, insisting the couple was destined for greatness. From that day, Chiamaka believed she had made the perfect choice. For better for worse, their pastor had declared. And she meant every word. But life, as her mother often said, had a habit of testing the things we swore we would never break. It happened slowly, so slowly that Chiamaka didn't recognize it at first. At the beginning, marriage felt like living inside a soft, warm bubble. They shared meals, shared dreams, even shared fears. On Sunday afternoons, they strolled along Freedom Way in Lekki, buying roasted corn and coconut from roadside vendors. They spent evenings watching movies on their old sofa, laughing over inside jokes that needed no explanation. Chukason was working at a growing tech company then, full of ambition and ideas. Chiamaka admired him deeply. But as months passed, responsibilities increased. Bills, rent, family expectations, work pressure, everything piled on. The man who once smiled easily now sighed more often. His shoulders tightened. His voice grew shorter. At first, Chiamaka tried to ignore it. She told herself Lagos was stressful. She told herself men handled pressure differently. She told herself the change was temporary. After all, marriage was not a bed of roses. Her mother said it 1,000 times. Yet, one evening, as she prepared dinner in their small kitchen, rice boiling, stew simmering softly, she felt the crack in her heart widen. "Did you touch my laptop?" Chukason's voice was sharp, cold. Chiamaka turned, confused. "Your laptop?" "No." "Why?" "It was moved." Someone checked my files. She blinked in disbelief. Chuka, I would never. Are you sure? His eyes narrowed, suspicion piercing. That moment stung. Deeply. Because it suggested something she never imagined he would think of her. Distrust. She brushed it aside that night, but the pain remained. Things grew worse when Grace joined their workplace, tall, elegant, ambitious, and intimidatingly beautiful. Grace became the new operations supervisor and was assigned to lead Chiamaka's department. At first, their relationship was professional. Grace seemed strict but fair. But over time, Chiamaka noticed subtle changes, whispers among colleagues, strange glances, random tension. One afternoon, a colleague named Chitara approached her quietly. Chiamaka, have you noticed anything going on between Grace and your husband? Chiamaka froze. My husband? She laughed nervously. No. They don't even know each other. Chitara shrugged. I don't know. Oh. I just overheard something. But Chiamaka dismissed it. She trusted her husband. She believed in him. She believed in their vows. Besides, Grace was just her supervisor. Nothing more. Or so she thought. One rainy Thursday evening, everything changed. Chiamaka was stuck in traffic at CMS, exhausted and hungry. Her wipers struggled against the heavy rain as she inched through the gridlock. Lagos felt like a giant beast swallowing her entire day. Her phone vibrated. Incoming call, Glory. Hello, Glory, she answered, forcing a tired smile. Chi, where are you? Glory's voice sounded shaken. Traffic. What happened? Silence. Glory. Chiamaka repeated, heart thudding. Finally, Glory whispered. Chi. I saw your husband. Chiamaka frowned. Okay. People see him all the time. What happened? I saw him at the Bridge restaurant, with Grace. Chiamaka's breath caught. Glory continued slowly, carefully. They looked, too comfortable, Chi too close. Chiamaka gripped her steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. That's not possible, she said firmly. Grace is my supervisor. Chuka would have told me if he was meeting her. Then ask him, Glory said gently. The call ended, but Chiamaka felt the ground beneath her heart crumble. Her mind raced. There must be a reasonable explanation. There must be. There must be. When she reached home, Chukason was already there, relaxed, calm, as though the world had not shifted beneath her feet. You're late, he said, barely looking up. Work was stressful, she whispered mechanically. She stared at him for a long moment, waiting for guilt to reveal itself. But his face remained unreadable. She didn't ask the question. She didn't accuse him. She didn't want to believe Glory's words. Instead, she swallowed her fears and forced a smile. Because marriage was for better for worse. And she would not jump to conclusions. Not yet. Over the next few weeks, subtle signs emerged. Chukason came home later. His phone stayed on silent. He guarded it more. Notifications disappeared faster. He started attending work meetings at odd hours. At first, Chiamaka tried to talk to him. Chuka, is everything okay? I'm fine. Are we okay? I said I'm fine. The distance grew. The laughter died. The warmth faded. Chiamaka often cried quietly at night, facing the wall, while he slept with his back to her. But she still held on to hope. Because she believed love required effort. She believed commitment demanded patience. She believed marriage meant staying, even when things hurt. But the truth was coming. Lagos had a way of exposing secrets. One Friday evening, after closing from work, Chiamaka decided to surprise her husband by visiting his office. She bought his favorite snack, meat pie and a soft drink, and took a cab to his workplace in Lekki Phase 1. When she arrived, she noticed something strange. Most cars were gone. The building was quiet. But Chuka's car was still in the lot. She smiled. He must be working late again. She entered the lobby, greeted the security guard, and took the stairs to the second floor. As she approached his office, she heard voices. A man. A woman. Talking softly. Her heart pounded. She moved closer, steps trembling. Then she heard it clearly. It was Grace's voice. Are you sure she doesn't suspect anything? Then Chukason responded. Chiamaka. She trusts me too much. She would never think I'd do anything wrong. A heavy silence followed. Then the unmistakable sound of two people moving close. Too close. Chiamaka dropped the food bag. It hit the floor with a soft thud. Silence. Then footsteps approached the door. She turned and ran, down the stairs, out the building, across the parking lot, until she reached the road and flagged a cab with shaking hands. She did not cry. Not yet. Her tears were too heavy to fall. When she reached home, she collapsed on the living room floor. She called no one. She said nothing. She just sat and stared at the wall, wondering how a beautiful dream could die so quietly. Later that night, when Chukason finally came home, he found her sitting on the sofa, eyes swollen. What happened to you? He asked emotionlessly. Chiamaka lifted her gaze. A tear slid down her cheek. I went to your office. His eyes flickered. Just for a second. But it was enough. And I heard everything, she whispered. Silence. A long, suffocating silence. Then she asked the question that had burned through her soul since she heard the truth. Why, Chuka? Why would you do this to me? He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. Instead, he said. You should have stayed out of my business. Chiamaka felt her heart crack open. Your business, she repeated, voice trembling. I am your wife. You're too emotional, he said calmly. You always have been. Then he walked past her, entered their bedroom, and shut the door. And at that moment, Chiamaka realized something deep and painful. Love dies quietly. Not with screams, not with fights. Sometimes it dies when the person you trust becomes a stranger before your eyes. The next morning, she woke up determined to fight for her marriage. But when she entered the kitchen, she found Chukason dressed for work, expression neutral. We need to talk, she said softly. No, he replied. We don't. Chuka, we cannot just ignore. I don't want to talk about it. She swallowed painfully. Do you want a divorce? He hesitated. That hesitation wounded her more than any insult could. I don't know, he said finally. Chiamaka's chest tightened. You don't know. I need time. He picked up his car keys and left. The door closed. And for the first time since she married him, Chiamaka felt truly alone. Days passed. Weeks followed. Chukason withdrew further. He slept in the living room sometimes. He stopped talking. He stopped touching her. He stopped trying. Chiamaka lost weight. Lost her appetite. Lost her peace. But she did not give up. She tried to reconnect. She made his favorite meals. Left him gentle notes. Asked him to talk. Asked him to try again. But his heart was somewhere else. With someone else. And even though she tried to hold on, she felt her grip slipping. One day, she went to her mother's house in Suralere to find comfort. But she told no one the full truth. She didn't want shame. She didn't want pity. Her mother noticed the change in her face, the sadness in her voice. Chiamaka, my daughter, is everything okay at home? Chiamaka forced a smile. Yes, Mama. We are fine. Her mother held her gently. Remember, marriage is hard. Two people must fight for it every day. Chiamaka nodded, even though her heart whispered. What if only one person is fighting? It happened one quiet Sunday morning. The sky was cloudy, the air thick and humid. Chiamaka sat on their sofa, staring at the door, waiting for him to come home. He had left the night before without explanation. At noon, the door opened. Chukason walked in. His shirt wrinkled. His hair rough. His eyes red. Chiamaka stood up slowly. Where were you? She asked softly. He glanced at her briefly, then looked away. Out. Out where? Stop questioning me, Chiamaka. She inhaled shakily. Please. I am trying to understand. He turned toward her, and for the first time, his frustration exploded. I am tired, he shouted. I am tired of this marriage. Tired of your questions. Tired of your emotions. Tired of pretending everything is fine. Chiamaka stepped back, trembling. Pretending, she whispered. Yes, he continued. This marriage has become a burden. Her heart shattered. But I love you, she whispered. He looked at her with an expression she had never seen before, cold, indifferent, distant. Love is not enough, he said. Not anymore. Then he walked past her, opened the bedroom door, and slammed it shut. Chiamaka collapsed onto the floor. Her tears spilled freely for the first time in weeks. And at that moment, she understood that scene one of her life, the one she built with hope, trust, devotion, and sacrifice, had ended. The morning after Chukason's explosive outburst, the atmosphere inside the apartment felt like a graveyard, silent, heavy, suffocating. Chiamaka moved slowly, as though she were walking through the ruins of a once beautiful building that had collapsed without warning. The living room was still in disarray from the night before. Her pillow lay abandoned on the floor where she had cried herself into an exhausted sleep. The curtains fluttered slightly with the breeze, but even the wind felt melancholic. Lagos noise drifted in faintly, buses honking, street vendors shouting, Okada riders weaving through traffic, but none of it touched her. Chiamaka wrapped her arms around herself as she stood near the window. The world outside kept moving. But inside her heart, everything had stopped. She replayed the words she never imagined she would hear from the man she once adored. I am tired of this marriage. Love is not enough. This marriage has become a burden. Each sentence stabbed her deeply, echoing in the hollow spaces inside her chest. She whispered to herself, how did we get here? But she already knew the answer. Trust had cracked. Respect had faded. Affection had died. Her marriage was now a shadow of what it used to be. Around 9 a.m., a soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Chiamaka hesitated, then walked to the door and peered through the peephole. It was Glory. Wearing a casual blue blouse and jeans, hair tied in a neat bun, Glory looked worried, deeply worried. Chiamaka opened the door slowly. Glory whispered, no greeting needed. Chiamaka didn't trust her voice. She simply stepped aside. Glory entered quietly and shut the door. She took one look at Chiamaka's puffy eyes and trembling lips, and her own heart broke. Without a word, she wrapped her arms around Chiamaka. And only then did Chiamaka finally cry, loud, raw, heartbreaking sobs that had been trapped inside her for weeks. I tried, Glory, she cried. I tried to save our marriage, but he doesn't want me anymore. Glory held her tighter. You didn't deserve this, Chi. I know, Chiamaka whispered. But I still love him. And that was the cruelest part of all. After a while, Glory sat her down gently on the sofa and took a deep breath. She had been withholding something for days, trying to protect her, but seeing Chiamaka's pain made it impossible to stay silent. "Chi, there's something you need to know." Chiamaka wiped her tears. "What is it?" Glory hesitated. Her fingers twisted nervously. "Chi. I didn't tell you everything the day I saw them at the bridge restaurant." Chiamaka's heartbeat accelerated. "What do you mean?" Glory inhaled deeply. "I didn't just see them having lunch. I saw them holding hands." Chiamaka froze. "No," she whispered. "And Chuka, he was smiling at her. A smile I haven't seen him give anyone in years." Chiamaka felt her stomach twist painfully. "He held her hand?" she asked, voice barely audible. "Yes, Chi," Glory whispered. "And, there's more." Chiamaka clenched her hands. "What else?" Glory looked down. Grace touched his face. "It wasn't an accident. It was, intimate." Chiamaka stopped breathing for a moment. She felt as though her heart had been torn out of her chest. How could he do this to me?" she whispered numbly. Glory shook her head. "Some people forget who they were the moment temptation enters their path." After hours of comforting silence, Glory finally spoke. "Chi. I think you need to confront Grace." Chiamaka shook her head quickly. "No. She is my supervisor. I don't want trouble at work." "Trouble has already found you," Glory said firmly. "Grace crossed the line first." Chiamaka wiped her eyes, thinking deeply. "I don't want anything to escalate," she whispered. "I just want my husband back." Glory swallowed hard. "And what if he has already chosen someone else?" Chiamaka closed her eyes. For a moment, the truth hung heavily between them. "I will fight until I have nothing left to give," Chiamaka whispered. "But I will not beg. I will not crawl. I will not lose myself." Glory nodded, proud of her resilience. "Then start by reclaiming your space. Do not let him treat you like a stranger in your own marriage." Around 3 p.m., the front door opened. Chiamaka stiffened. Glory turned her gaze toward the door. Chukason walked in. His eyes widened slightly when he saw Glory, but his expression remained unreadable, cold, even. "Good afternoon," Glory said, voice steady but stern. "Afternoon," he replied flatly. He glanced at Chiamaka, but she didn't look at him. She was exhausted. Heartbroken. Emotionally drained. Chukason dropped his keys on the table. Then, without apology, without explanation, he said, "I need space." Glory stood immediately. "Space?" she repeated sharply. "After abandoning your wife all night?" Chukason glared. "This is between me and my wife, not you." Glory stepped closer. "And as long as you keep hurting her, you will deal with me too." "Glory, stop," Chiamaka whispered. "No," Glory said firmly, turning to her. "You have suffered enough." She faced Chukason again. "Do you even know what you have done to her? Do you have any idea how much she cried last night?" Chukason looked away. Glory shook her head in disgust. "I used to respect you," she said quietly. "But now, I don't know what you've become." She walked to the door, grabbed her bag, and turned back to Chiamaka. "I will check on you later," she said gently. Chiamaka nodded. When Glory left, silence filled the room again. Chiamaka looked at her husband. He avoided her gaze. "Chuka," she whispered, "please, talk to me." He sighed deeply, rubbing his forehead. "What do you want me to say, Chiamaka?" "The truth," she replied, voice steady. "Just the truth." He looked up slowly. And what she saw in his eyes terrified her. A coldness she had never seen. A detachment she didn't recognize. Indifference sharper than a blade. He inhaled. "Fine," he said bluntly. "You want the truth. I don't feel the same way anymore." Chiamaka felt the air punched out of her lungs. He continued mercilessly. "I don't feel connected to this marriage. I don't feel anything." Tears rushed to her eyes again. "How long?" she whispered. "How long have you stopped loving me?" "Months," he said. Her heart cracked. "Was it because of her?" she asked painfully. "Grace?" He hesitated. And that hesitation confirmed everything. "Chuka," she whispered, her voice breaking. "How could you?" He looked away. "I didn't plan it." "But you allowed it," she said. He didn't answer. Her voice trembled. "Did you sleep with her?" Silence. A long, devastating silence. Then. "Yes." Chiamaka staggered back as though physically struck. Her knees buckled, and she gripped the edge of the sofa to stay upright. She felt dizzy. Sick. Crushed. "Chuka," she choked. You betrayed me." He didn't respond. She wiped her tears, trying desperately to breathe. "What about our vows?" she whispered. "What about everything we built together?" "I'm sorry," he said quietly, though his voice carried no emotion. "But I don't want to continue like this." Chiamaka stared at him, confusion mingling with grief. "What are you saying?" He looked her in the eyes. "Maybe we should separate." Chiamaka collapsed onto the sofa and covered her face with both hands. Her whole world felt like it was falling apart. She whispered through tears. "Why wasn't I enough for you?" But he didn't answer. He simply walked past her into the bedroom, leaving her in the living room with her heartbreak. Chiamaka wept until she had no tears left. But somewhere within her pain, a small flame still burned. A fragile flame made of hope. Of loyalty. Of love, love that refused to die even when wounded. She whispered to herself. "I will fight for this marriage, even if I stand alone." For the next several days, the apartment became a battlefield of silence. Chukason barely spoke. Barely ate. Barely looked at her. He went out early and came home late. Chiamaka tried everything, peaceful conversations, emotional letters, careful gestures, but he responded with coldness. She cooked for him. He ignored it. She bought him a new shirt. He didn't say thank you. She tried to sit beside him. He moved away. Each rejection sliced her soul deeper. But she refused to give up. Because a part of her still remembered the man he used to be. The man who held her hand while crossing busy Lagos streets. The man who wrote her sweet notes. The man who promised to choose her every day. But the truth was undeniable. That version of him was gone. One evening, while Chiamaka washed dishes quietly in the kitchen, her phone rang. It was Obinna, Chukason's elder brother. She hesitated before answering. "Good evening, Obinna," she said softly. "Chiamaka," he greeted warmly. "How are you?" She forced a steady breath. "I'm fine." He paused, as though detecting the lie. "Have you spoken to Chuka lately?" Chiamaka hesitated. "We live together." "That doesn't mean he is talking," Obinna said knowingly. Her silence spoke volumes. "Chiamaka. I don't like what I'm hearing," Obinna said gently. "Chuka is changing. And not for the better." Chiamaka blinked back tears. "I know. I want you to know something," Obinna continued. "You have done nothing wrong." Her lips trembled. "You are a good woman. A good wife. And if my brother cannot see that, then he is the one who has lost his way." She covered her mouth to muffle a sob. Obina's voice softened. I will talk to him, I promise. Chiamaka nodded, even though she knew promises rarely changed hearts. 2 days later, Grace confronted Chiamaka at work. It happened in the staff lounge. Chiamaka was heating food in the microwave when Grace walked in. Tall. Elegant. Confident. Her perfume filled the air before she spoke. Chiamaka, she said calmly. Chiamaka stiffened. Yes. Grace crossed her arms. We need to talk. Chiamaka swallowed hard. About what? About your husband. Chiamaka felt her knees weaken. Grace stepped closer, her voice low. You need to stop holding him back. Chiamaka blinked, confused and angry. Holding him back, she repeated. Grace nodded. Chuka is not happy with you anymore. You are suffocating him. Blood rushed to Chiamaka's ears. I am his wife, she said slowly. And I am the woman who makes him feel alive again, Grace replied quietly. Chiamaka's heart slammed painfully against her chest. Grace, she whispered, voice shaking. Please, don't do this. Grace leaned in. It's already done. Tears welled in Chiamaka's eyes. Grace stepped back, smoothed her blouse, and added. You should let him go. Then she walked out of the room, leaving Chiamaka shaking. Chiamaka left work early that day. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't focus. She walked through the Lagos streets like a ghost, unaware of the noise around her. At home, she sat on the floor and cried in silence. Not loud sobs. Not hysterical wails. Just quiet tears that carried heavy pain. She felt unwanted. Unloved. Discarded. But despite her suffering, she wasn't done. She knew there was still one thing she had to do. She had to talk to her husband, one last time. That night, when Chukason returned home, she stood in the doorway of the living room waiting for him. We need to talk, she said softly. He sighed, irritated. Not again. This is important. He walked past her toward the bedroom. Chiamaka followed. Chuka, please. He turned around sharply. What do you want, Chiamaka? She looked into his eyes, searching for the man she once loved. Tell me, do you want to leave me for her? He said nothing. Is she the reason you stopped loving me? Nothing. Is she the reason our marriage is dying? Silence. The truth was clear in his eyes. Chiamaka felt her heart collapse. She whispered. Just answer me. He inhaled deeply. Closed his eyes. Opened them. And said. Yes. Chiamaka staggered backward as though punched. Her hand flew to her mouth. No, she whispered. Yes, Chiamaka, he repeated, voice cold and final. I want to be with Grace. Tears spilled from her eyes. Her heart shattered into 1,000 sharp pieces. He added. I want a separation. And I want it now. The rain had stopped, but Lagos still carried the smell of water resting on hot concrete. Cars hissed through shallow puddles, horns echoing in impatient bursts across the long stretch of Herbert Macaulay Way. It was evening, yet the heat clung to the air like something breathing. And beneath it all, Chiamaka's heart beat with the force of a drum echoing from a distant village festival, loud, rhythmic, warning. She stood outside the bus stop canteen, arms wrapped tightly around herself, staring at nothing in particular. People passed her, tired faces and restless footsteps, but she barely noticed. Her mind was still trapped in that moment, the moment she first realized everything between her and Chukason was shifting, tilting, breaking. She had watched marriages crumble before. She had heard whispers in market lines and salons. She had seen women smile with carefully painted faces while hiding fractures beneath their ribs. But she had always believed her story would be different. Because she had married for love. Because she had married a man who once looked at her as though she was the only thing breathing in the world. Now she could not tell whether the world was shrinking around her, or whether love had been slowly moving away. And tonight, she was afraid to go home. She knew Chukason would already be there. She knew he would wait, and his silence would feel like a wall she needed permission to climb. She knew he would ask where she had been, even though he hadn't asked her about her feelings in weeks. She knew he would look at her the same way he looked at broken things, quietly, almost politely, with no intention of fixing them. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Grace. "Have you gotten home? Please text me. I am worried." Chiamaka typed back slowly. "Not yet. I am still gathering strength." Grace replied instantly. "Do not go home in that state. Come here first. You cannot cry inside that house. Not today." Chiamaka's chest tightened. Grace was right. She wasn't ready for the walls of her home, or the shadows hiding inside it. She wiped her face and stepped away from the bus stop. If she had the strength, she might have walked the entire length of Yaba just to delay the moment she would have to face the life she no longer understood. But fatigue settled into her bones, and her steps grew small and unsteady. A tricycle stopped beside her. "Madam, where you dey go?" the rider asked. Unilag sighed, she answered softly. He nodded, and she climbed in, her hands trembling as she held on to the metal frame. As the tricycle sped away, her eyes blurred with fresh tears she did not want to cry. But they came anyway. Grace's apartment smelled of fresh ginger tea and fried plantain, the unofficial scent of comfort. When Chiamaka stepped inside, her shoulders loosened slightly. Grace hugged her, a long, firm embrace that made Chiamaka's breathing slow. "You are safe here," Grace whispered. "Talk to me." For a long moment, Chiamaka said nothing. She sank into the couch, pressing her palms against her eyes. "It is getting worse," she finally murmured. "I feel like a stranger in my marriage. I feel like I am fighting alone." Grace sat beside her, her face soft. "Did he say something again?" "No," Chiamaka whispered bitterly. "That is the problem. He says nothing now. He looks at me like someone he tolerates, not someone he loves." Grace sighed. Marriage is not easy, but silence can destroy more than shouting ever could. Chiamaka nodded. "When did you stop trusting him?" Grace asked gently. Chiamaka hesitated. Her fingers twisted together. "I do not know," she said. "Maybe it was the first night he stayed out late without explanation. Maybe it was when he stopped calling to check on me. Maybe it was when his phone suddenly became something he always had to hide." Grace's eyebrows rose. "Hide?" "Yes," Chiamaka whispered. "He never used to hide anything from me. Now even a simple notification makes him turn the screen away." Grace exhaled carefully. "Have you asked him about it?" "I tried," Chiamaka said. "He said he was busy. He said I was overthinking. And every time I tried again, he shut me out." Grace took her hand. "You are hurting, Maka. But be sure before you assume betrayal. Be sure." Chiamaka looked away. "What if I am the one breaking? What if I am imagining things because I am insecure?" Chiamaka asked. "What if?" Grace cut her off. "No marriage breaks because of imagination. It breaks because something real shifted. Whether small or big, something changed." Silence settled between them. Grace leaned back. "But you need clarity. You cannot keep living like this." Chiamaka nodded slowly. She knew Grace was right. She needed clarity. She needed the truth, no matter how painful. But the truth, she feared, might destroy her. Back home, Chukason sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone. The room was dim except for the blue glow of the television. His jaw tightened each time he checked the door. It was 9:37 p.m. Where was she? He ran his hand over his face. He was tired, mentally, physically, emotionally tired. Work had been a storm these past weeks, and he could not afford to lose the project he had been chasing for months. His mind was consumed by deadlines, investors, proposals, but Chiamaka didn't seem to understand that. She wanted conversations, feelings, explanations. She wanted access to a part of him he didn't even have access to himself anymore. He stood up and paced. Maybe he should call her. Maybe he should check if she was safe. Maybe. No. He stopped himself. Each time he tried to fix things, words betrayed him. He said the wrong ones. Or he said nothing at all. A notification popped up on his phone, and instinctively, he turned the screen slightly away from the room, even though no one was watching. He sighed. Even he could see how that looked. But the message wasn't what Chiamaka thought. It wasn't a secret relationship. It wasn't betrayal. It was something else entirely. Something he couldn't explain yet, not even to himself. Chiamaka arrived shortly after 10 p.m. The moment she stepped inside, she felt the thickness of the air. Silence pressed against her like a wall. She dropped her bag gently, as though afraid the sound might break something fragile. Chukason turned. "You are late," he said quietly. "I know," she answered. "I needed time." He nodded once. "You could have called." She swallowed. "I was not in the right state to talk." He looked at her then, really looked at her. Her eyes were swollen. Her voice fragile. Her shoulders tired. Guilt pricked his chest. "Maka," he started, but she walked past him. "I am tired, Chuka," she whispered. "Can we talk tomorrow?" He hesitated. "I think we should talk now." She stopped. "About what?" she asked, keeping her voice calm. "About his secrets? About the silence? About the distance? About the messages he kept turning away from her?" But Chukason did not speak of any of those things. Instead, he said, "I feel like we are drifting." Her breath caught. She turned to face him slowly. "Yes," she whispered. "We are." He exhaled deeply. "I do not want that." "Then stop pushing me away," she said, her voice cracking. "Stop shutting me out." He clenched his jaw. "I am not shutting you out. I am overwhelmed." "You can tell me that," she said painfully. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you always look at me as though any weakness will disappoint you," he replied quietly. "And I cannot afford to fail you." Her heart twisted. "You never failed me," she whispered. "I just want to feel like your wife again." Silence. Raw. Heavy. Then. His phone buzzed. Both of them looked at it. He picked it up too quickly. And everything shattered. "Who is that?" she asked. "It is nothing," he said. And that was it. That word. That familiar word. The word that had become a knife. Nothing. She stepped closer. "Then show me." "Maka, please," he said, turning slightly away. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "What are you hiding?" He stiffened. "I am not hiding anything." "Then let me see." Chukason's hand tightened around the phone. "No," he said. And in that moment, something inside Chiamaka cracked, not loudly, not violently, but quietly, deeply, like the sound of hope bending until it could bend no more. Without another word, she walked to the bedroom. She did not cry. She did not shout. She simply closed the door behind her. And for the first time since they married, they slept in different emotional worlds. Morning arrived without mercy. Chiamaka stood by the window, staring at the city waking up. She felt hollow. Heavy. Tired of fighting a battle she did not understand. Down the hallway, she heard Chukason preparing for work. His footsteps were soft, hesitant. He wanted to talk, she could tell. But the distance between them had grown. When he stepped into the room, he paused. "Maka," he said gently. She turned, her face composed. "Good morning. About last night." She raised a hand. "It is fine. You do not have to explain." He frowned. "But I want to." She shook her head slowly. "You have had so many chances to explain, and every time you chose silence." He swallowed hard. "I am not cheating on you," he said suddenly. Her eyes flickered. "Then what are you hiding?" He hesitated, too long. "It is complicated," he whispered. Her heart sank. People only said complicated when the truth was something that might break the person asking. He stepped closer. "Just, give me time." She stared into his eyes, searching, hoping to find something she could trust. "I do not know how much time we have left before we break," she whispered. And she walked out of the room. For the first time, Chukason felt real fear. Not of losing control. Not of losing pride. But of losing her. The breaking point came 3 days later. Chiamaka returned from work early and found the house unusually quiet. Chukason wasn't home yet. She dropped her bag on the couch and walked toward the dining table. That was when she noticed it. His laptop. Open. Screen still active. And on it, a message. Her heart stalled. She didn't move closer immediately. She stood there, trembling, afraid of what truth might be waiting on the other side of a few steps. But her feet moved anyway, slowly, carefully, like someone approaching a sleeping lion. The words on the screen sharpened. "We need to finalize things before she finds out. Call me." Chiamaka's breath vanished. Her hands shook violently as she reached for the laptop, her heart beating so loudly she could hear it in her ears. Before she could scroll further, the door opened. Chukason froze when he saw her holding his laptop. Their eyes locked. The room felt like it had stopped breathing. "Chuka," her voice was barely a whisper. "What is this?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. He knew this moment was coming. He had hoped he could delay it. He had prayed it would not arrive so soon. Chiamaka stepped backward, tears collecting but not falling. "Are you leaving me?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Is that what this is?" "No," he said instantly. "Then what is going on?" He closed his eyes, inhaling slowly. "It is work," he said. "A project. Something big. Something I have been hiding because I have been trying to protect you from the pressure." But his voice wavered, just enough to sound like a lie. "A project you have to hide from your wife?" she asked. He stepped toward her. "Maka, please listen. It is not what you think." She stepped back. "Then explain it." He opened his mouth, but the words wouldn't come, not the right ones, not the full truth, not yet. And that silence, that fatal silence, confirmed her worst fear. Her hand dropped from the laptop. "I believed marriage was for better for worse," she whispered. "But I cannot fight if I am the only one trying to save us." He reached for her hand. She pulled away. And the distance between them became a canyon. The morning after the message on the laptop should have been like any other morning in Lagos, restless, noisy, impatient, but inside Chiamaka's home, everything felt muted. The world outside moved with its usual rhythm, Danfo buses screeching, traders shouting, generators humming, but inside, silence held the walls together like glue. Chiamaka heard the kettle boiling in the kitchen. She didn't get up. She sat at the edge of the bed, her feet touching the cold floor tiles, her fingers twisting around each other. The night had been long. Not even sleep dared come close to her. Every time she closed her eyes, the message flickered in her mind like a warning sign. We need to finalize things before she finds out. Call me. She had imagined betrayal in many forms, another woman, secret outings, hidden conversations, but something about this message felt different. It felt strategic. Structured. Planned. It didn't sound like romance. It sounded like conspiracy. She heard footsteps. Chukason appeared at the doorway, dressed for work, shoulders heavy with a weight he no longer tried to hide. "Maka," he began, his voice low, unsure. She didn't respond. She looked straight ahead, eyes fixed on the wall opposite her. He swallowed. "We cannot continue like this. We need to talk." She spoke without turning. "I agree." He stepped in. "I am not cheating on you." She finally faced him, her expression unreadable. "Then tell me what you are hiding." His jaw tightened. "Maka. I will tell you. But not here. Not now. I need to show you something first. You deserve the truth, but I need one more day." "Why?" she demanded. "Because if I tell you without proof, you will think I am lying." The word struck her hard. "What kind of truth needs proof?" she asked quietly. "The kind that can destroy everything if misunderstood," he answered. Their eyes locked. Hers filled with fear. His filled with exhaustion. She stood. "Chuka, I cannot live in fear. I cannot live with half-truths." "I know," he whispered. "Give me until tomorrow evening. I promise you, everything will be clear then." She hesitated. She had two choices. Walk away now. Or give her marriage one last breath. Her voice came out small. "Tomorrow evening." Relief washed over his face. "Thank you." He stepped forward, as though wanting to hold her, but she moved aside. He stopped. Then he walked out. She listened to the door close behind him, and something inside her trembled. Tomorrow would change everything. One way or another. The hours crawled. Grace arrived by noon, carrying a small flask of pepper soup and a look of deep worry. "You look like someone carrying the weight of 1,000 stories," she murmured. Chiamaka forced a weak smile. "Because I am." Grace sat across from her. "Tell me everything." Chiamaka repeated his words, the promise of truth tomorrow, the mysterious message, his refusal to explain it now. Grace listened carefully, her brows slowly drawing together. "This does not sound like cheating," she finally said. Chiamaka blinked. "Then what does it sound like?" Grace took a deep breath. "It sounds like something bigger. Something he is scared of. Something he does not know how to involve you in." Chiamaka's throat tightened. "But why hide it from me?" "Because men sometimes think hiding problems is the same as protecting their wives," Grace said gently. "But hiding is not protection. It is fear." Chiamaka exhaled shakily. Grace reached for her hand. "Whatever tomorrow brings, you will survive it. You are stronger than you think." Chiamaka nodded, though her heart trembled with uncertainty. When Grace left, Chiamaka decided she couldn't sit still. She needed clarity, even if she had to create it herself. She began cleaning. Not because the house was dirty. But because she needed movement. She needed distraction. She needed anything to drown the storm inside her. She wiped the kitchen counter. She arranged plates. She straightened their wardrobe. She folded clothes repeatedly, even when they were already neat. And then, something strange happened. While rearranging the wardrobe, she noticed one of Chukason's suit jackets had something inside its inner pocket, something heavier than a wallet or handkerchief. Her fingers hesitated. Slowly, she reached in. Her breath caught. It was a sealed brown envelope, thick with documents. No name. No label. Just an envelope that felt far too mysterious to be innocent. Her pulse quickened. Should she open it? Should she wait? She closed her eyes. Tomorrow. She had promised to wait until tomorrow. After several agonizing seconds, she placed the envelope back exactly where it had been. She stepped away. But curiosity clawed at her like a shadow. Evening turned to night. Night turned to morning. And then the day arrived. The day of truth. Chiamaka barely spoke as she dressed. She wore a simple gown, light blue, soft fabric, nothing too bright or dramatic. She looked in the mirror and found someone she barely recognized, not the woman who walked into marriage with hopeful eyes, but someone holding on to love by its last thread. By 6 p.m., the sky outside had turned a warm shade of orange. Lagos traffic rumbled faintly in the distance. And then, the front door clicked. Chukason stepped in. He looked different, tired, serious, but determined. "Maka," he said softly. "Are you ready?" Her heart thudded. "Yes." "Then come with me," he said. She grabbed her small purse and followed him out. They walked silently to the car. The drive was tense. Quiet. Heavy. Lagos moved around them, hawkers weaving through cars, exhaust fumes rising, streetlights flickering on. Chiamaka watched familiar roads pass by until she realized they were heading toward Ikoyi. Her confusion deepened. After 20 minutes, he pulled into a quiet compound beside a tall office building. He stepped out and opened her door. "This is where the truth begins," he said. They walked into the building, took a lift to the third floor, and stepped into a quiet office suite with frosted glass doors. A man in his late 40s stood waiting. He wore a crisp shirt, black trousers, and an expression that made Chiamaka uneasy. The man greeted them. "Good evening, Mr. Chukason." "Good evening, madam." Chiamaka nodded nervously. The man invited them to sit. Chukason took a long breath. Then he finally began. "Chiamaka," he said, his voice steadying, "the reason I have been distant, the reason I have been hiding things from you, the reason I became someone you barely recognize." He paused. She held her breath. "Is because I have been trying to protect you from something I never planned to be part of." The man stepped forward and placed a file on the table. Chiamaka stared at it. "This," the man said calmly, "is a fraud investigation." Her heart slammed against her ribs. Fraud? Investigation? Her husband? The man continued. "Your husband is not a suspect. He is a whistleblower." The room spun. A whistleblower? Chiamaka turned to Chukason, stunned. He swallowed hard. "Maka. I have been working with the authorities for months. My office was involved in illegal activities, money laundering, forged accounts, embezzlement." Her mouth parted in shock. "I discovered the documents by accident. And once I saw them, I couldn't ignore it. I reported it. And since then, everything changed." Chiamaka stared, speechless. "They threatened me," he said quietly. "They threatened my job, my family, and even you." Her stomach twisted. "That message you saw," he continued gently, "was from the investigator. We needed to finalize the last evidence before the organization realized I was the leak." Chiamaka's eyes flooded. His voice softened. "I hid it because they warned me not to involve you. Not for your safety. But because anyone close to me could be used as leverage." Her hands shook uncontrollably. "And now, the operation is complete. The case is closed. They have what they need. I am finally free to tell you. The man nodded. Your husband is one of the reasons the case succeeded. He is no longer in danger. The organization will fall. The words hit her like a wave. She didn't know whether to cry, scream, or collapse. Chukason reached for her hands. I am sorry, he whispered. I never wanted to shut you out. I was fighting a battle I could not let touch you. Tears slid down her cheeks. Maka, he said, voice breaking, I never betrayed you. She covered her mouth, sobbing. He pulled her into his arms. And for the first time in months, she let him. When they returned home, the night felt different, lighter, gentler, almost warm. The air no longer felt like it carried secrets. Once inside, Chiamaka sat on the couch, still trying to digest the truth. She wiped her cheeks. You should have told me, she murmured. I know, he whispered. I was wrong to keep you in the dark. You made me feel like you didn't want me anymore. He sat beside her, his eyes soft with regret. I wanted to protect you. But I ended up hurting you. She looked down. You hurt me deeply. I know. His voice cracked. And I will spend every day proving to you that I want this marriage. That I want you. She exhaled shakily. Silence followed. Not cold silence. Not suspicious silence. But healing silence. Slowly, carefully, she leaned into him. He wrapped his arm around her. They stayed like that for a long time, the weight of the past weeks lifting like morning mist. Finally, she whispered, Chuka, next time, let us face battles together. He nodded. Yes. Together. 1 week later. Their home felt alive again. Soft laughter returned. Conversations flowed. And the shadows that once stood between them slowly faded. They attended counseling. They rebuilt trust. They relearned each other. And for the first time in a long time, Chiamaka believed in their marriage again. Even the strongest love can break when truth is hidden. And even broken love can heal when truth is shared. Marriage is not just for better for worse. It is for truth, communication, and courage. Because silence is heavier than betrayal. And honesty, even painful honesty, is the beginning of peace.